You've probably seen the Canopy Bath Tub Filter all over social media, promising to make your bathwater cleaner, healthier, and better for baby's skin and hair. But at $89, is it actually worth it? I put it through our full Water Filter Guru testing process, including field chlorine tests, timed flow rate measurements, and an independent lab analysis to find out what it really does well, where it falls short, and how it's scored in our system. Let's start with the price. The Canopy Bath Filter currently sells for $89, and replacement cartridges cost about $37 each. They say to replace the cartridge every 90 days. I couldn't find a rated capacity in gallons, so we extrapolated that if bathing every day, 90 days equals about 90 baths. The average bath uses 30 gallons, so that works out to about 2,700 gallons, more or less, before replacement. Of course, filter life depends on the quality of the water being filtered as well. Anyway, using these numbers, we worked out an ongoing cost of roughly 1.4 cents per gallon. That makes it the most expensive bath filter to buy up front, but in terms of ongoing cost, it falls right in the middle of all the bathtub filters I've tested so far. The Canopy Bath Filter fits over to fully cover your bathtub faucet and uses a single cartridge that contains KDF, calcium sulfite, and activated carbon media. These materials are designed primarily to remove chlorine, though KDF can reduce some metals, and activated carbon should be able to address organic chemicals. One thing that does stand out is the design. The outer shell is made from soft, heat-resistant silicone instead of hard plastic. It feels premium, looks clean, and should hold up better to the high temperatures and occasional bumps around the bathtub. The way it fits over the faucet also prevents overflow, which is a common issue with bathtub filters. So we ran 3 different tests to evaluate how the Canopy bathtub filter performs in the real world. First, we did field chlorine testing at both fast and slow faucet flow. At a fast flow rate of about 3.6 gallons per minute, chlorine dropped from 2 parts per million to roughly 1 ppm, a 50% reduction. When we slowed the flow rate down to about 0.6 gallons per minute, chlorine was completely removed. So this tells us that the slower the water comes through the filter, the better it works for chlorine reduction. At the faster, more normal bath faucet flow, the filter filled 2 cups in just over 2 seconds, which works out to about 3.6 gallons per minute, fast enough to fill a standard 30-gallon tub in around 8 minutes. At the slower setting, it took about 12.5 seconds to fill 2 cups, or roughly 0.6 gallons per minute, which would take nearly 50 minutes to fill the tub. So while the slower fill does give you better filtration, there's definitely a convenience trade-off here. Now let's talk about the results from our lab testing. As we usually do for these projects, we used tap score to test the water both pre and post filtration. For this project, we were most interested to see the filter's performance with the contaminants that matter most in bath water: free chlorine, disinfection byproducts, also known as DBPs, and water hardness. These are the ones most likely to cause skin, eye, and nose irritation, and in the case of DBPs, potential long-term carcinogenic risks due to dermal and inhalation exposure. In the unfiltered sample, the lab detected 24.7 parts per billion of chloroform, the only DBP present, which exceeded the Protective Health Guideline level, or HGL, of 0.221 parts per billion by roughly 11,000%. Total hardness measured 17.13 parts per million, which sits right above the 17.1 ppm threshold that separates soft from slightly hard water. TDS measured 39 ppm, and pH was neutral at 7.2. We also saw minor detections of aluminum, barium, copper, fluoride, phosphorus, and strontium. All were well below their respective HGLs, and most are considered ingestion-related concerns rather than dermal or inhalation risks. After filtration through the Canopy Bath Filter, chloroform was not reduced and actually increased slightly, about 6% higher than the baseline. Now, to be clear, I don't think that the Canopy filter itself added more chloroform, but but rather this was due to fluctuations in the source water between sampling. Total hardness also rose by about 5%, despite the company's marketing language that could be interpreted as implying that the filter helps address hard water. To be fair, they stopped short of directly claiming hardness reduction, but the way this information is presented could easily be interpreted the wrong way. We also saw modest increases across several other parameters: barium by 12%, calcium by 5%, chloride by 14%, copper by 5%, fluoride by 20%, magnesium by 15%, sodium by 12%, strontium by 5%, and sulfate by 10%. Manganese was also detected post-filtration at 0.0011 parts per million, where it had been absent in the unfiltered sample. So now let's talk about how the Canopy bathtub filter performed in our data-driven scoring system. It earned an overall weighted score of 8.08. This is most heavily influenced by its contaminant reduction performance, where it earned a 7.54. This score was negatively impacted by the fact that chlorine was only reduced by 50% at a faster, more normal bathtub flow rate. The score was further lowered by lack of performance certification and insufficient improvement for disinfection byproducts or water hardness. Canopy claims the filter is, quote, tested to NSF 177 standards, but that data is not publicly available and it doesn't hold any official certifications from the NSF, WQA, or IAPMO. Now, to be fair, at the time of recording, there are no official certifications for bath filters, so every single product we tested received the same score in this category. For filtration rate, it received an 8.5. Here, we used the slower flow of less than 1 GPM that provided 100% chlorine reduction to apply the score based on when we recorded better performance. It scored a 7.2 for design. The silicone body is a noticeable upgrade over the thin plastic housings most bath filters use, which earned it an 8 for component quality. However, the lack of an official material safety certification brought the overall design score down. In the setup category, it scored a high 9.5. Installation took less than 5 minutes and required no tools or plumbing knowledge. Just slip the included adapter over your faucet and you're ready to go. For maintenance, it earned 9.75. Replacing the filter is simple, and at just 1.4 cents per gallon, the ongoing costs are super low. Finally, for company policies, Canopy received a 7.75. They offer a 1-year warranty, free shipping on orders over $25, and a 60-day return policy. Now, I really do like what Canopy has done to improve on the conventional bath ball filter design. The silicone gives it a higher end look and feel compared to the usual chrome-plated plastic models. Installation is fast and simple, and the replacement filters are easy to swap out when the time comes. However, there are some important downsides to keep in mind. Most importantly, it only reduced chlorine by 50% at a normal flow rate. Canopy doesn't hold any official certifications, even though their marketing mentions, quote, tested to NSF standards. To clarify, that's not the same thing as being officially certified. And our lab results showed no meaningful reduction in disinfection byproducts or hardness minerals. Overall, the Canopy bath filter does what it's designed to do, reduce chlorine, but only if you slow the water flow down. It's well built and easy to use, but performance-wise, it doesn't stand out. If your main goal is chlorine reduction, the Santivia bath filter actually performed better in our testing. It was the only bath filter capable of achieving 100% chlorine removal at a normal, faster flow rate, and it's also much more affordable. However, just like Canopy, it didn't reduce disinfection byproducts and actually increased hardness. Now, if you found this helpful, subscribe to the channel and stick around to watch the next video on shower filter testing. We included the Canopy shower filter in that project, so click or tap to see how it performed.